Right, hi, I'm back again. From Canada, we're going back down to Mexico, and we're going to talk about Juanicipio, which really is the sister deposit, very close to La Colorada. We've been here before, but really, I mean, talking about, Fresnillo and the district of Fresnillo, where, we could, where Juanicipio sits, 60 kilometers from Zacatecas City, 6 kilometers from Fresnillo town itself. And I mean, this is a historic mining camp, plus 3 billion, I think Mike, you said 4.5 billion has been mined from the Fresnillo camp. It depends how the district, how far you project that, because this really is world class. We see all of those deposits again, sitting on that northwest, southeast sort of Sierra Madre on the edges of that tectonic break. And so really zooming into what is Fresnillo, the town, Saucito, which is a Fresnillo operation sitting directly east of Juanicipio itself, over nearly 7,680 hectares sitting really on that corner there. And from the purchase of Mag Silver and the discovery that they made right in this historic camp cannot be underestimated. And when we zoom into that district and sort of closer in geology, you see the main veins right on the corner, and we're going to show that in a bit more. But really, I wanted to, in this image here, is the historic mines, Peranio and San Luis, are all sitting over there, and they were higher up, and due to tectonics and block shifting, Juanicipio sit undiscovered down here in the southeast. And as we move through the silica cap, you've got the whole system preserved, and really that's the story for the exploration that I'll be talking about in a little bit. Here we have the strike of the main structures from public information on the Saucito side, and of course that corner where Juanicipio sits is where all the resources and the exploration and the discovery was made. So there's the portal where they're currently developing the ramps, etc. And really, we're going to strip away the surface now, and we're going to focus in on the silver grades. And this is all the silver grades from that drilling and channel sampling from the database. Here we have the solids of the resources, and you can see this funny structure sitting out 90 degrees to the main structures. We'll talk a little bit about that. That's Venedas, which was a recent discovery several years ago. But really, you've got the dark lines of the infrastructure. I'm going to flip that round, looking northeast. And really, the takeaway here is that you've got all of these different stacked veins along the principal northwest, southeast, and then this 90-degree Venedas, which is in current resource at the moment. Here we're just going to list out all of those different parallel structures to the main structure of Valdecañas. In the footwall, the Ramal 1 and 2, and in the hanging wall, Anticipada, Pre-Anticipada. Not forgetting that 85% of the current reserve sits in Valdecañas, which is really the mainstay of this at the moment, of the mine at the moment. And with 50 million ounces of inferred resource still sitting at Juanicipio, that's certainly something that we can see being drilled out as we move through in the production cycle. Also, you've got Juanicipio, not to be confused by Juanicipio mine. This is the Juanicipio vein. Remember that Valdecañas is where the main structure and supports all of the current production. Juanicipio sits 800 meters to the south, and Venedas at that 90-degree coming out from the main structures. We're sitting about 300 meters below surface, and as I mentioned, that was a blind discovery. Just looking at the reserve replacements at the moment, recently Fresnillo released the current resource and reserves for Juanicipio. We're at 132 million ounces of silver. Having started off in 2023, we're at 122, plus you've had the production. So yes, there is a positive increase in reserves in silver ounces. Having said that, the average grade of that silver is decreasing. They're starting to drill further down structure, which is more polymetallic rich, which has been described in the past about the Juanicipio mine. So we are moving out of that bonanza zone, should we say, which goes around the 1,600. Then below that, you get more base metal. But it's still, I mean, your average width at Juanicipio is 6 meters, but it goes up to 30 meters wide, which is quite incredible for this deposit. And of course, we're still sitting on 1 million ounces, almost 1 million ounces of gold. So, stripping away all the others and Valdecañas, and let's just talk a little bit about that grade distribution that I just spoke about. Here we have all of those silver-rich blocks over half a kilo, sitting still up at that upper portion of the Valdecañas. And as we move down and deeper, you'll see those pinks come down, and that's where all of the base metal rich is. So it really is a story of that bonanza at the top and that deep sulfide mineralization towards the bottom. Going back to the silver, and we'll just flip it around so you kind of get a good idea of that vein structure itself, and the sort of the gray traces are all of that drilling that's happened. Here we have that the measured, indicated, and inferred resource shapes around it, and obviously further down at depth, you've got all that inferred resource which still can be drilled further and added into reserves in the future. So, where next? I mean, certainly from an exploration point of view, converting that inferred resource into reserves will be certainly a priority, and that's on the current structures we know at the moment. Also, we have the Juanicipio vein, 800 meters south. There's only a small portion of this which has been defined in inferred resource. That's still a lot of work to be done on drilling that structure south. And then we're obviously sitting on a good area where we've got the structure that we need, and this is all deep. Remember I mentioned that if we look at the historic and look at Piranha, etc., which were eroded down and they were exposed at surface, when we look at Juanicipio and then further to the southwest, certainly everything's at depth. So that is going to take some time. There's the Canada Onda structures and also Mesa Grande structure, sitting 7 kilometers south of currently the Juanicipio vein and mine. So still, I mean, it's prime exploration areas and certainly a lot of work that I know Fresnillo are working on, and it's been a pleasure to work with them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Hi again. We'll quickly run through some slides on Juanicipio. Or we won't, one or the other. Here we go. This is just a plan view of the mine area. You can see the vein system that Chris has just been describing, as well as the conveyor project that comes from the mine up towards. I'm working from the bottom up here, actually. Up towards the surface, the underground portal, processing facilities, tailings dam, mine offices, and entrance there. So just a plan view of the site layout. This one Chris just covered. Worth mentioning that the silver reserve and gold reserves are, they're maintaining. The grade is coming off a bit, but the total contained ounces are being maintained and replaced. And I think, as Sam mentioned earlier, and Michael mentioned, this was an opportunity to buy 44% of the newest mine in the best silver district in the world. Two of the other bubbles on the top graph on the left, Saucito and Fresnillo, are neighbors, in the same district, current operations by Fresnillo. And the facilities really are first class, and Fresnillo has got very good at building this facility. This is a multiple version of the same thing they've built, but this time around, very state-of-the-art, good stuff. the circuit that is very conventional, SAG mill, ball mill, underground crusher. You know, a lot of what we were talking about on for the La Colorada skarn on a smaller scale, selective flotation. It's very similar type of thing. More gold in this circuit, or in this deposit. And the one thing that would be different to the skarn is that this has a pyrite circuit, and the pyrite concentrate is sold off to a smelter. And then in terms of operating performance, certainly we're seeing a bit of a trend of outperformance relative to guidance. And certainly we're tracking very well relative to guidance this year after the first quarter from what we're seeing. And the guidance that we had for all-in sustaining costs, we're way below that. We guided 225 to 425, and we're at -3 in Q1. So tracking extremely well from that perspective because of the higher metal prices. So in terms of both production and AISC, we're in a good shape there. And then some of the initiatives that we're trying to work with Fresnillo with, and working with Fresnillo with on continued safety performance, as Scott detailed. We've got a specific set of safety initiatives that we have in the company, and we certainly have some good discussions with them. You know, similar-minded company on safety. Continuing with some of the cost reduction initiatives that we've been talking about. The development is very important, and to get that and maintain it, not just for the production now, but for the deepening of the mine as we go forward. The conveyor belt I'll talk about in a minute. And then, as Chris mentioned, you know, we need to keep on the exploration, trying to find more resources and convert them into reserves. And this is a slide on the conveyor belt. It's mostly complete. It's 4.2 kilometers long. It's a $37.5 million project with estimated savings by not having to run small trucks up the ramp of $8.4 million a year. So it'll take ore from the underground crusher and run it up to the plant. So it's a little bit unique with that big curve in it. So it'll be interesting to see when that's in operation.